Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
DOD45. This is the DOD45 Show, drawing over discussions 45 minutes with a special guest. Welcome. I'm your host and resident artist, Tai of ArtByTai, and with my co-host, Adrian Taiwali'i, we're having conversations with people who I admire and am inspired by. On this episode, I'll set a 45-minute timer, put my pen to the paper, and we'll learn about our guest through an interview-style discussion. So stay right here with us to experience some laughs and maybe even learn a thing or two. DOD45. Hello, fellow humans.
People of
Hello,
Earth.
Adrian.
How are you?
Yo, Adrian, we did it.
Welcome to the DOD45 Show, where you get to watch me draw while we have a discussion with a special guest. Thank you for joining us today. Our guest is OldBoy Rhymes.
Think of a nerve link that they just plant in your head that gives you infrared vision for a tactical edge. World war, that shit's coming, started scrambling jets instead of canceling debt. They manufacture threat. Selling weapons in Soweto, they'll make the way up to Lagos, making pesos like NATO and bombing on Sarajevo, dropping just like hot potatoes, a diabolical payload, sending weapons back home to use on you like Waco. Political prisoners.
In the place to be, baby.
Hey, yo! What is good?
What up?
What is good? What's the word?
And everything's as it needs to be. Things are in motion. There's been no serious roadblocks to us achieving the end goal of projects that are sitting on the back burner.
Does that ever give you pause? Are you the type when things are going as it should be? Do you worry like, oh shit, something's about to drop?
Yeah, that happened today. Like someone who's featured on the album, OldBoy's album, who I don't know, hit him up about questions that he didn't understand. So then I was like, oh man, are we gonna have this stuff's already ready to go? I can't change anything at this point. So, but it turned out to be nothing. It was just a like ASCAP BMI type thing, which they could hash out on. Yeah, but again, OldBoy's super green. He's never registered songs with a publishing company and doesn't know the process. And even me, after 25 years of being with ASCAP, I'm still kind of confused as to how it all works. But yeah, and I'm not even sure how I get pretty good checks from ASCAP, and I don't know how that's possible because I'm not played on the radio. So it must also be internet streams, but there's another company that does that too.
Well, welcome. It's good seeing your face. So I put down I wrote out a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. I'm imagining that this is playing before OldBoy's episode, which is I think the album's out. How do you think it's going so far?
So this episode will be dropping a little more than 2 weeks after the album drops. Anything could happen. I just don't want it to go ignored. We worked way too hard on it. He's way too talented. And the features that he acquired for this album are they're legends, you know? Mm-hmm. There's too much good stuff on this. Mopes' production on it, top notch. Buddy Peace kills it with the cuts.
Oh, I didn't know Buddy was on there.
I'm just hoping people find one or two or three tracks that they absolutely love and share the hell out of it, because that's literally the only way we're going to have our music spread amongst hip-hop fans and music fans. We're not doing any industry publicity tricks other than just providing dope material and really good videos. Like this, I think the first official video might be the one with Myka 9.
One of the topical, getting political, optical, hitting on track, projectable, using an optical opportunity if it's possible with my ability, logical, intricate, syndicate, diabolical, maniacal, meant to get more biological, intimate, sentiment, rhyming, pattern, and optimal mattering to be melodical, mattering, mugging and shattering, bubbling, battering, juggling, gathering, knuckles in the ring, more hustling in micro-personal struggling, I'm a king, non-apologetic.
That'll come out right before the album, and then after that, we did the video for the song you did with Brother Ali.
I know we got to make it somehow. I've been fighting since a young child and ain't about to run now. I hustle when the sun's out. Late night, I'm strategizing. My mind been analyzing. My heart is agonizing. The false advertising. Make your own folks' flesh look appetizing. Yes, cannibalizing. As if the best assignment is fighting over everything.
Which is an incredibly beautiful video that he filmed in Southeast Asia with a couple dancers. Since Brother Ali couldn't be in it, and he just did a really like smart video of dance. Which sounds crazy, but when you see it, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's tight.
You were just recently on Brother Ali's podcast. It's a really great conversation. And what I want to do is tell people to go watch that rather than hashing out things that you talk on there about. There's a lot of good information in that podcast. So, go check that out, people. But there was something that he had mentioned. I know it happens, but I was curious if it happens a lot. But Brother Ali, because this album the Old Boy album had beats that he was renting before you guys kind of rebuilt the whole thing. I know Brother Ali said in your interview with him, he was like, oh yeah, because that wasn't the beat that I rapped over. My question is, does that happen often? Like, has it happened to you where you get someone's beat, you're on a feature, you do something, and then the whole thing gets changed?
No, it doesn't happen often. And when it does happen, you have to definitely hit up the artists that are on the song to like make sure they're okay with it. I was apprehensive about Brother Ali because I know he's very particular about his stuff. And I feel like it took a couple tries of me getting him to appreciate what it is now and have him let go of the old version. Because at first he was like, man, it's just like there was a soul sample on the other one. And you know, I could tell he was really vibing off of that, and it's not included on this new version of Somehow. And but I by far enjoy this version more than what he did before, and I'm singing the chorus on that song now. I'm not even sure he's aware of that, but now he's totally into it. Once he saw the video, he was locked. Like once he saw that video, I feel like his appreciation for the song went through the roof, and he's very like happy to be on it rather than, because you know what it could have been. He didn't know we were releasing this album when he recorded the song. He probably thought, all right, this is a no-name MC, hardly anyone's gonna hear it, let me just like do something on the side, get paid for it. I'm not even sure what the transaction was, but I can tell, or I would assume, that once he realized our fingerprints were on it and it was going to go to our audience, which is also his audience, he had to like be much more considerate about what it entailed and how it would come across. But no worries there.
Because he already had his verses on before you guys were on the table as releasing the album, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably
and I wasn't on it.
Oh.
He hit me up to feature on it, just the same way he did with Brother Ali. And I said, sure, I did it for free. Even though I didn't know the guy or anything about him, he seemed like a genuinely thoughtful, helpful cat who was trying to raise money for people in Bali. And that was his excuse for putting together this music, saying he was going to, whatever proceeds he made from the album would go to a certain cause. And I kind of looked at it like, I know how much money music makes these days. That's not going to be... You're not going to raise enough money for that to make a much of a difference at all. Not the way you're doing it. So let's see what else we can do with this. And then, as I mentioned on the Ali podcast, he asked me if Strange Famous would release it. So then I took it much more seriously. And then we had to rebuild a lot of it because it just wasn't up to snuff as far as professional releases go. And now it is.
Right. And then if it gets released, well, because he had rented beats, so then... he'd have to keep paying for that. I don't understand. I'm not quite sure how rented beats works.
It's very convoluted, but it's all about, he leases the beat, and then that means he can use the beat on the album, but other people can use the beat as well.
Right.
It's and like, if someone ends up buying it exclusively, then that becomes a problem to us.
Right.
And it's just not worth. I'm not playing. Those are fucking circus games. That's silly. Like I'm not into any of that.
Right.
Especially when you have dope ass producers at your fingertips.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And he had no special relationship with that producer. It wasn't like they were homies or anything. And if anything, he would have been putting this producer on had the producer agreed to just let him use the albums officially on the record. He'd still get his writing splits. He'd still get his royalties. So I don't think it was a good decision on his part, and I don't even remember his name anymore, but that's how it all played out. And I explained it to OldBoy just like that.
Yeah.
And now him and Mopes are good friends. And him and Alexander Brown are good friends.
Yeah, that's good. That's even better. I have a quick similar thing. Yeah. My movie that I did, the movie Darkroom, we were one of the only movies to get, we had Godspeed You Black Emperor songs on there. And it was like,
love it.
Their producer was like, you guys are so lucky that they're allowing you to use this because they never do that. They don't like to be part of movies. But it was an independent movie. Our deal was only for festivals, so we were only able to have this music in the movie for festivals, and then if it got picked up, we had to negotiate a new deal for distribution. Well, when the movie got picked up, the distribution company who picked up our movie, they didn't have any other money to give us. So I had to re-edit the whole film and take out all of the music, and we had to have a whole new composer do a whole new music. It was kind of a bummer because I love Godspeed, but
wasn't that the same with the Violent Femmes one too?
Yeah, we had a Violent Femmes song in there, and the whole movie, the whole end of the movie ends with this scene where they're singing Violent Femmes at karaoke, and we couldn't get what they wanted for the distribution for the money for the Violent Femmes song. We just couldn't afford. The distribution company wouldn't cover it, so I had to re-edit the whole ending of the movie,
and so it doesn't
really make sense. So yeah, anyway,
that sucks so bad.
I was gonna say though,
sorry to hear that.
Going back to OldBoy, I was really shocked when Ty told me that this was his first album, and I don't know if it was just because of the song that you guys put out a while back, but he sounds so familiar. I thought I'd been hearing his voice around for ages. I was just really shocked that this was his first thing, and then he comes out and all of you guys are on board. That's pretty amazing. That doesn't happen, I don't think.
I know, it's a very special circumstance, and all praise due to the Strange Famous posse, because they came together and supported the cat. No one knew who he was, but I think me vouching for him and giving the background info and explaining his situation, they could all relate to it, and they understood and wanted to support a cat who is fresh to this thing that maybe a lot of us have been beaten down by over the years. And he's still got that green spirit, and he's not broken yet. And I want to utilize that energy and siphon it and bring it into the cipher. It's really kind of the most exciting part of working with a new artist who will make mistakes along the way. He doesn't really, can't foresee the typical pitfalls, little things, but he did come as a fully formed spitter, very, he's an MC through and through. And it's not like he's an older guy. He's not a 20-year-old cat. He's lived life, and it shows in his music. And he's never had the opportunity to release stuff, so that's why we're at where we're at now.
Yeah, it's a smart move on your behalf, because he's he's got life experience, so he's a smart individual there. But he's this first time into quote unquote wreck the industry, and I think maybe that's one of the things that happens when you're in any kind of business for a long period of time, where your aspirations go away because you go I'm not going to try that because I already know what's going to happen. But when you're new to something, you're like, I'll try everything.
Yeah, he's free. He's free. It's beautiful.
That is a good feeling. We'll get back to him and wrap up with it on that. But how was you were recently did Colorado? That all went well?
Yeah, our return to Colorado was extremely successful. There was no chill time this time around. It really was, for me, go, doing photo shoot, doing a podcast show, doing sound check, going to the supermarket to get broccoli, rushing back to the venue. It felt like I didn't get to rest whatsoever, and I was highly anxious and stressed, and I'm already feeling that way about my next shows. But the shows went great. Like the crowds were awesome. Colorado Springs in particular, which I haven't played in many years, but I've played that venue before. That crowd was better than the Denver crowd. And they were buying all the merch. They were buying CDs. Like, no one buys CDs anymore. Colorado Springs was buying our CDs, and that's when I fell in love with Colorado Springs. Because I bring this little box of CDs with me everywhere I go, and like maybe one or two will sell just as a novelty thing. But Colorado Springs probably is still driving around with CD players in their car.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, does that happen? Do you find that will probably happen in? I know Colorado Springs is not a huge city, but it is a bigger city. But those smaller cities seem to like really be grateful. I don't know if that's the right word, but like happy when acts come through and perform there.
They're always better crowds. It's because they don't get enough of it. They are often overlooked and bypassed, or they'll have to travel a far way to see the acts they want to see somewhere else. So when those acts come to their town, they show up and they're appreciative. And that energy is undeniable. It's always great.
So are you constantly eyeballing venues and cities and stuff to continue a Strange Famous Fest sort of thing ever?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, I do hope we get to do another one. And I recently heard it's possible we could do the lead again next year, because finally an answer came through as to why we didn't do it this year. A fan of ours kept messaging them asking what the heck happened. And they finally said, well, it's very rare for us to do the same show 2 years in a row. So we'd have to skip a year and then do it again.
Oh.
So, I mean, maybe it'll be an every other year type of thing. But at the same time, I'm always waiting for... I do look out for the opportunities, but I don't seek them out.
Yeah.
When things fall in my lap or the opportunity arises, I jump at it. But right now, I mean, I don't actively look to do shows myself. I just need to do maybe 5 or 6 a year.
Yeah.
I should be doing more, and I probably can do more soon. But it's been so hard leaving my family. It's becoming harder and harder. I keep thinking, which trip is going to be the last one for me where I just say I can't do it anymore. It's an awful feeling. And when I come back, and if my son is withdrawn and unhappy with me being gone, and I miss out on important things, I've already done too much of that in my life, and I'm very cognizant of it. I'm not like going to overlook the importance of being present in my son's life. So I'm trying to just think of many different ways to be active without being gone.
Will it come to a point where if he gets to an age where it's like, hey, let's all go out on the road together?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. It's just tough. Like a family of 5, that becomes very expensive.
Very
absolutely, it does.
We could do local runs around New England or New York.
Yeah. And then, is there any strange famous news? Anything that you want to also put out into the ether, or?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, we've been so wrapped up in this Old Boy album. Like, a lot of things hit the back burner, but there's going to be an album by C's Mics called With SFR, and every song has a strange famous feature on it.
Good thinking.
There's once October hits, or when the fall hits, we get very active. We're becoming like a spooky season label. So Mopes has that a project called Deado Brook it's a lot. All the songs are horror themed. That has a lot of features on it.
I collected snake skins, most kids collected rocks. I would take them everywhere, kept them in my sneaker box. We didn't have a car, we took lots of walks. Back then we lived in Florida, it was always hot. Yo, I loved the way it smelled when I opened up that box. One time we caught a ride, the driver caught the rock. I was forced to let him go, but for me it didn't stop.
What is that?
We leaked some of that.
Is that the Is that the stuff that's where Adrian first heard Old Boy, because he was on one of those songs, right?
On Halloween I just had him on repeat because I didn't have access. Like I can't What was the deal? You could download them or something, but
No, yeah. I think we let them be streamed, and then we took them off
Stream
the
for a day
internet.
or something like that
Just
for
as-
Halloween.
yeah, I think I just had them on
Yeah.
repeat that day or whatever.
Oh, cool. So that's going to be a feature. That's going to be a full album then.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
And I think it's going to be something that we do like part 1, part 2, part 3. And I'm doing another doll or action figure.
Oh, is that what you
because
showed?
it's the 10-year. There's the first one we did. We're gonna do one for the Copper Gone 10-year anniversary. We're gonna do the character from the Make 'Em Purr video.
I was a lot more comfortable being vulnerable and open when I was younger, and it wasn't clear if I was or wasn't joking. But so much is broken, just like fuck it, the fix is in. If I can't hide in plain sight anymore, I'll just stay hidden. It's been a minute since I left this domicile. No need to change my outfit. I'll rock it like it's going out of style. It's out of style. Ain't no one here to tell me otherwise.
So that like guy, that's the cartoon guy.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a cat with cat accessories.
Oh, that's
so I'm working
awesome.
on it with the same guy who did the personal journals action figure. So we're hoping to get that done before the end of the year. And I need in the fall, I really hope to start recording my podcast and maybe get a team of people who can help me with that. That's been 4 years in the making, and I should stop dragging my feet. That's all.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely. Oh, well, speaking of our very first discussion with you some 3 years ago, there was a thing that came up where we were talking about potentially making a Dead Milkman cover album or a cover song or something. I think that was something that came up.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. This is a Dead Milkman song I wanted to cover called. Now I can't even remember what it is. I forget. But
Yeah.
I had a collection of songs I was considering doing covers of for a cover album, and that's just one of the billion ideas that probably is just stockpiled that I'll never get around to. But I'm working with my brother who plays acoustic guitar. He plays all instruments, but he's a phenom on the guitar. We might record some acoustic songs together, and Swell from Meter Maze wants to do that as well. He's already sent me a few acoustic guitar tracks that I've sang and rapped over, just to see how it sounds, and it's pretty cool. So I might build on that.
I didn't know Swell plays guitar.
Yeah, he sings too. He's really good.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, him and Buddy Peace have an album together where he sings on the whole thing. Buddy Peace produced it, and that happened right when Swell's father passed away, and that was hard hitting for Swell. So he put that on the back burner, and then a couple years ago, Buddy Peace hit me up like, "Yo, what are we gonna do with this?" And I had never heard it before. I was like, "Oh shit! Like we have a whole album where he's singing over your beats," and I was like. And I talked to Swell, and we talked about me getting on the whole album and making it a me, him, and Buddy Peace collabo album. And I hopped on one song, which was my favorite song, and it feels like I really shouldn't be on the whole album because it's already made, and I'm just going to be like a supporting vocalist on the album. We have to figure out what to do with that. Maybe we remake some of the tracks and rethink.
So this is not something that's out yet.
How to do it. No. In fact, it's just I feel like Buddy Peace probably thinks it's dead in the water, but it's not.
Close the blinds. Please take off your shoes. It's never dark enough. The streetlights coming through.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm interested to hear it.
Me too.
I just listened to Buddy's newest release.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was really good.
Yeah,
Could have been longer.
No, well, there are songs on there that are like 15 minutes long. It definitely could be longer, but it's really good. I've been listening to it on my bike rides. Speaking of Buddy Peace too, he just made us our theme music for our Dish episodes, and it's fucking awesome.
Ask you what your interests are.
Do you like it? Who you gonna be talking to?
First things first, the first what's the
Talk, questions, conversations, laughter.
It's so good.
Nice.
What a delight that dude is.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a nice
He's the best.
Hey, real quick, Cast One's the next week's episode because this episode's the Old Boy episode. Do you have any messages for him?
Don't talk about me, fool. Don't talk about me on the episode. Don't say my name.
Keep Sage's name out your motherfucking mouth.
What? Did I miss something?
The
What's
first thing he
happening?
asked.
No,
the first thing he asked me when he saw that I did the Brother Ali podcast, he texted me. He was like, "Did you guys mention me?" I said, "No, we stayed away from all sensitive subjects."
You did mention Jesse the Tree, and you did mention Old Boy and C's Mics.
I wish I could mention everyone at all times.
Well, but they have big albums coming out. The Cast doesn't. I mean, he had the song come out, but he doesn't have an album coming out, does he?
Not yet.
Nah, but he did those 3 wonderful songs
Yeah.
with AB. So, I mean, that needs to be fleshed out at least into an EP, I'd think.
Yeah.
We got a lot of music hanging around. We need to make it more official. So,
yeah.
And my ROVR app. ROVR radio show is still going. So you can go to the ROVR website, and apparently you can access all my archives now.
You can.
It's hundreds of hours of hip hop.
Wow.
And I feel like I'm running out of tracks. I'm trying not to repeat myself, and I don't want to put on things that are kind of dope. I want really dope shit on my show.
Yeah, you got a great.
I'm like bottom of the barrel right now. Yeah, and their payment hasn't come through. So we'll see what happens with that.
And so last weekend was Rhyme Fest. How do you think it went?
Oh.
I think I left very early and got my rest and didn't really care much to stick around to sell merch. That's coming off of, so I'm going to do a small family vacation right before I fly to California. So I'll be in New Hampshire for 4 days. Then I play a show in New Hampshire. Then I fly to California the very next day to LA. Hopefully nothing goes wrong with the flights and I get in the day before Rhyme Fest. And I got my luggage, which has my merchandise in it. Whatever I didn't sell in New Hampshire is going to be with me. And maybe I'll schlep some t-shirts while I'm at Rhyme Fest. Maybe I'll just be hiding, conserving my energy. They told me I've got a 20-minute set now. So that's good. Very compressed for me. I know fans would be upset if they want to hear more material, but when they tell me that, it doesn't change what I get paid. And I feel like they're making off pretty well with what they're paying me. So 20 minutes sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the next morning, I'll do a podcast with Andrew Santino for the ginger whiskey thing. And then I drive to San Diego by myself and play another show in San Diego. And then I fly home. And that's how I'm wrapping up my summer. That's the end of my shows for 2024.
Wow. Well, you gotta take a long little nap. It is wild. We're doing the exact same thing as you. We're doing a little family vacation, and we get back the day before we fly to Rhyme Fest.
That's right.
So yeah, we're going up to the UP with our kids and renting a boat, and then we're going to see Childish Gambino the night before.
Right.
So we'll be on the same sort of thing that you're doing. If I have this question I want to ask you, if Scribble Jam ever came back, would you ever want to get up in there again?
Yeah, I mean, if they did it the same way it was done, where you don't know who you're going to be facing, you don't know what beat you're going to be rapping over, I would do that. That would be fun. I'm way out of practice, so I'd have to get back into the gym. But yeah.
All right. Well, hey, what do you want the people? What do the people need to know about Old Boy Rhymes?
You got to know that he's lived a lot of life, and he wanted to put it all on the album. And when you hear the album, you're probably going to think this is hyperbole. There's no way this all happened. And it did. And he's very eager to explain it all. And he's willing to prove whatever, but he also likes to maintain anonymity. And I respect that. He doesn't want his family out there. He doesn't want his family name or anything. And I've always been the same way as well. Although I show a lot more of my life now, but when I was coming up, it was important to protect yourself and your identity and your privacy. So he's walking a fine line. And I'd love for people to check him out and support him and follow him, because it's an uphill struggle right now. And I want him to see the benefits of and the rewards for his skill set and what he's willing to share and what he does and how he does it. And I look forward to seeing how his career takes off from here, because he's already working on new material. And I think he's already thinking of new ways to do stuff. And he's invigorated by it, by the whole process.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll be getting with him here pretty soon. Sometimes I get hit up from people, I don't know why they hit up our show, but they go, they want to know what Sage's advice is to young rappers. I'm like, I don't know if anyone wants to answer that, but
it's always the same answer. I've asked it a million times, and like, it's too many answers, but the main answer is don't do it.
I thought you were going to say just rap. There you go.
Don't do it. Yeah, have fun. Make sure it's for you. Make sure you're having fun and it's for you. Don't risk your livelihood, and don't throw everything away thinking this is going to work out for you, because that is a pipe dream. And I benefited from a whole different era that does not exist anymore. Mm-hmm. I only pretty much work with artists who have full-time jobs. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's our comfort zone. It makes me feel more comfortable knowing that they aren't trying to live off the music. They're just making the music that they love. And we have the ability to actualize it and make it public and push it and put it out.
Yeah. I'm going to let you get out of here, but I do have one question on top of that.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of the artists, like especially a lot of Strange Famous artists, their music feels a lot more passionate, and it feels better. It feels a little more freeing. And I'm wondering, do you think that is because it's no longer like, oh, I've got to be in this certain box to hit this mega stardom as a rapper or something? So now they're freely able to go like, this is what I really want to make.
Yeah, it reminds me of when we all started out, when none of us expected to have careers, and we were just making music to impress one another and to impress hip-hop fans. And so people who came up in the kind of hip-hop we came up on, I think they can recognize that same spirit in the music we're making now. I would hope so anyway. And we've talked about that amongst ourselves, like how freeing it is, how liberating it is, and how we think it's making our shit doper. It's just a funner experience overall. And being able to collab with so many random people who have different skill sets and work as a community within Strange Famous, the more we grow like that, the cooler things can get. So things are changing in ways that I'm not predicting. I'm just letting it happen, and I'm not steering the ship to go one way or another. It just is happening, and we're part of it.
So awesome.
I love it. Thank you for being part of it too.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we love Strange Famous. You know that. What do you prefer people to? How do you prefer them to partake of the music that Strange Famous is putting out? What's the preferred method?
Listen wherever you want, but support at strangefamous.com or at Bandcamp. Obviously, that Bandcamp is a great way to get the digital music and pay for it, and let the artists know that you appreciate their art and you support it. But we are always coming up with merch ideas because we want our physical product out in the wild. Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful way to just show your support by wearing a Strange Famous jacket or hoodie or shirt or hat, and it's like gets other people's eyes on it.
Yeah.
You know, like fuck wearing Nike, fuck Adidas.
Yeah.
Rock Strange Famous.
Right. Oh man, when I'm wearing Sage Francis shirts, it's so great all across the country. It's just so great when people are like, they'll want to tell me how they first discovered you. Like, it's just like thing that happens between people. It's so great when people are like, oh, fucking, yeah. I mean, that's the idea. That's what the point of merch is, I think. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Sage, man, it's great checking in with you. Thanks for all the years of great music. And do you have any other final words for the people?
Nothing else. Just thank you very much. Love y'all. And you'll hear from me soon. I'm going to hop up in more episodes.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks, Sage. All right, man.
Peace.
DOD45. All right, well, listen, like I said, we're recording this prior to the release date. The album's called Sane Asylum. Here's what I know about OldBoy. What I know about OldBoy is what we're going to learn about OldBoy in this discussion. And I can tell you based off of listening to him speak in some of his interviews and the content of this album and his other music, he's educated and he's thoughtful. Some music that you should check out is his single that came out called Master Cleanse that came out earlier this year.
We know some scars are ancient and they lead to dark places. Like the hearts are hard and racist, snarling at the Star of David. And I know it's hard to say it, but I'll say it. Here's the question: who's in prison? Who's flexing with precision guided weapons? Yo, we witnessed 9/11. They monopolized deception. Go ask Julian Assange. His sunlight's a disinfectant. Washing bloody clothes and chloride. Standing on the Lord's side. Let's turn him into.
I did the cover art for that. It's a really, really, really good song, and it's a heavy topic, but it's there's a lot to learn from that. Also, he's on a song called Rooms at the Overlook.
I hate writer's block. I sit each day and scribble. I fiddle with every word and I'm feeling so temperamental. The Navajo spirits manipulating my mental through Indian ancient temples with intricate pagan symbols. I can't sleep, just like a hopped up trucker, cause murder Native Americans wanna watch y'all suffer. And vision in box cutters just cutting through hot butter. And
that's a song he did with Sage and Lee Reed's, produced by Mopes. And that's in an upcoming Mopes album called Dead Brook. Okay, well, here's something to check out. Sorry. Like I said, I'm thrilled to hear Mr. Liff on an album with Sage Francis. Sorry, I'm a little distracted.
Did you hear that? You can hear that too.
So I'm thrilled to hear Mr. Liff on a song with Sage Francis. That's awesome, and that's a song on this Sane Asylum album and the song's called American Pyramids.
Mr. Liff. So you've gotta get rich quick, ski. So confident you put it on the split screen with an open display, and you post every day cause you don't even think that shit is risky. But you can't tell an asset from a liability, sitting duck on the wrong end of killing spree, willingly talking about your come up, but fed motherfuckers can create winter out of summer.
Obviously, being a longtime Brother Ali fan, I'm stoked to hear Brother Ali on one of the tracks of this album, and the track's called Somehow. All right, like I said, we're 13 hours apart, so it's late night for OldBoy. So let's do it. Let's get to him. We'll be right back with OldBoy Rhymes.
Hey, what's up, podcast world? This is AWOL1, and one of my favorite shows is DOD45 with ArtByTai. So check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
DOD45. Well, welcome to the DOD45 show, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah,
of course. For the next 45 minutes, I'm going to draw you a picture. We're going to have a discussion. Some of the themes in your drawing are Spielberg's Empire of the Sun, Wolverine, as you mentioned, of X-Men. I also got an octopus in here, an orangutan holding a sign that says UNI verse at war.
Nice.
Yes, because you are a big Black Thought fan, as am I.
I always thought it said that you and I first have war.
Oh.
It's a verse.
Yeah, it's you and I verse at war. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you learned something already.
I don't know which makes more sense, but okay.
One factoid most people don't know, orangutan is actually an Indonesian word, and it means people of the forest.
Oh.
Most people don't realize that.
That's awesome. Well, that's what I got, and I'm drawing him. I'm drawing him with like on the cover of the Empire of the Sun movie poster. There's the boy, and also the movie kind of starts off with the boy running with the plane. That's what he's kind of doing. He's running with the little plane in front of the sun. Yes, I love. Yeah, and I'm hoping that it's the one from the Spielberg one that you're talking about.
Yeah, it blows me away how few people have actually seen. It's like a classic Spielberg movie, and Christian Bale's a young kid. Some kind of parallels to me growing up as an expat. Obviously, not an aristocratic British, colonial person like he was, but I don't know. It resonated with me a lot. I used to watch that when I was a young kid.
Yeah, it's Spielberg, so obviously it's a great movie, but it really is a good movie, and it's like you said, it's classic Spielberg. As far as like arcs of a story, he's a storyteller, so everything is like perfectly set for the beginning and middle and end.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, any thoughts on this? Any other thoughts on the subject matter I'm drawing you for this episode?
No, man. I'm sure people are aware that you drew the cover art for our song Master Cleanse.
Yes.
Which absolutely blew me away. I hope you have it hanging on a wall somewhere or you're going to auction it off. Like, straight up masterpiece.
That one's a keeper for myself.
Yeah.
Typically, I will sell them to people, but yeah. No, I was happy to do it, and I'm glad that you guys asked me to do it because I love the song. You know, what Sage had told me when Sage reached out to do it, I was just... And then sent me the song. I heard it. I heard 3 or 4 different mixes of it. And when it finally dropped, I was like, "Holy shit! Yeah, this is dope." So yeah, people, if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It's fantastic.
You know Alexander Brown, right? He did an insane deep dive. He must have spent 200 or 300 hours mixing and remixing and mastering that track. Like he really went hardcore. Yeah. I flicked that painting over to Sage, thinking, "Let's see if somebody can do something with it." But when he sent back what you did, I was like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, it's nuts.
It all came. It all came together quite right. I think. Yeah. And like I said, when I heard the earlier mixes of it, like it's the first few mixes of it are significantly different than what dropped. Yeah. So yeah.
So Brown did it.
Yeah.
Brown did all the music.
Yeah, he did the
did.
production for it.
So believe it or not, he sent me a skeleton of a beat he made like 8 or 9 years prior to that. And I heard it, I saw where this could go. And then Sage heard what I had laid down. And he's like, "You got to change all these drums. You got to do this, that, or the other." So there was a huge amount of work that went into actually getting that finished song out the door.
Yeah.
They are so quiet. It's always so surprising how secretive everybody is. Like everybody is working, not secretive, but like there's so many projects. And you would think they'd be like, "Oh, I got a thing," but nobody says anything.
And I think, we'll get into the show, but Adrian, I would say probably because a lot of it doesn't get out, and you don't want to keep.
No,
saying,
I understand it, but that would just be hard. You would be so excited about this thing you were working on, and you couldn't really.
Well, that's my dynamic there with Sage, right? This is my first album on any platform whatsoever to release, and Sage, for at least the last year, is like, "Just chill out, man. Just chill out. We'll get there. We'll get there." So.
I was just going to mention that because you've been. I mean, this has been something that you've been ready to put out for quite some time now.
Yeah, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the verses that I've recorded on there, I recorded 18 months to 2 years ago.
That is crazy.
And I've evolved a long time since then. I've probably recorded 50 or 60 songs since then, right?
Wow.
So I'm so eager to get this out so people can hear it. A lot of love went into it, from the production to the mixing to Sage's guidance. But I've got so much other shit that I also want to get out. So it's Sage's like, "You'll get there."
Yeah, I can imagine how much that. But I believe they're right. You know, like as impatient or excited as you want to drop something, you definitely don't want to drop it right in the middle of when a bunch of shit's happening.
And I had mentioned when we were talking with Sage that just your voice sounds like I've heard it before, like it's just been around. And then Ty was like, "Oh, that's because of the Halloween release songs,
the Dead Books." Yeah,
and I was like, "Wow, you guys have known him that long?" That was like almost a year ago. I just felt like you guys just met, a couple months ago. So.
No, that was the first official professional song I put out, but they only put it up for 2 days and then took it down again, right? I'm like,
and you still can't find it anywhere until the album comes out. Yeah.
I know when it's coming out. I don't know if they've said anything. Like you said, they're secretive, so I won't tell you guys. But you can guess when the Halloween album's going to come out, right?
Yeah. We spoke with Sage prior to speaking with you right now. We recorded it a few days ago. But he's kind of in the intro of this episode. So.
Okay, cool.
All right, let's do this. Let's get this going. I'm going to start the timer. All right, timer set. We're going to start an arc to the episode, and we're going to do that with the question of how do you typically start your day? What goes? I mean, you're already towards the end. I mean, you're at the end of your day.
Yeah, at 9:30 where I am, but honestly, I'm very lucky. I start my day best way anybody could. And that's literally as soon as I open the door, because my son gets up earlier before me with my wife. It's like a ritual every day. He knocks on the door, I unlock it, he runs in and he jumps into bed with me and he wants me to hold him. Like, it's been that way for at least 3 months. Every day, it's the best way to start your day.
Hell yeah, that is nice.
Would you like that if Soul jumped in your room in bed
Me?
and cuddled with you?
Well, I mean, when they were younger, that would have been great. Yeah, our son's 16 now. Our son's 16. That'd be. I mean, it would be pretty sweet. but I have now. When our cat used to do it, I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now she's even given up on
After that, usually my ritual is hug my son. Then I always go out and work out. I need to get started by sweating. I find that my brain doesn't really, I can slog through the day, but I'm much more energized if I just go and I sweat a little bit, right? Then I can get into the day.
Yeah, you seem like the type, I mean, not that there is a type, but you definitely seem like a workout is an important, or like physical health is an important part of your life.
Yeah, man, I would say, I mean, my wife's even more hardcore than me. She's hardcore into MMA. She does yoga every morning at like 4 a.m. She's an amazing, she can throw hands. Like, she's really into MMA. And for me, you know, you heard my album. There's some personal stuff on there. I've gone through an insane amount of hellacious stuff in the last 6 years and many different things across my life. And what I've found is that exercise is one of those things that it's not for vanity. It's literally just for like stability, keep you grounded in your body. Almost every day I try to sweat at least a little bit.
Good physical health is good mental health, man. I'm a firm believer of that. That's a good way to start your day. Hey, where did you grow up?
Oh man, all right. Well, it's a long question. So I was born in Anchorage. I grew up about an hour outside of Anchorage in Alaska. But if you want to extend it even further with my insane family, my father was born on the East Coast, but he moved to Malaysia when he was 6 months old. My family took a boat from the United States, believe it or not. And they were actually originally heading to Burma, and there was social unrest. And so they got rerouted to Malaysia. And you're talking the early 60s, and my dad grew up in Malaysia for a big part of his childhood. My grandfather was a missionary, so he built a church, and then they moved over to Singapore. I ended up getting born in Alaska, and at the age of 10, moved to Jakarta in Indonesia. So I spent a big part of my until I graduated high school in Jakarta, went to university in San Francisco. After that, moved back abroad, and I've spent 60-70% of my life abroad. You know, basically 4 generations down to my son now have lived outside of the US. And my mom's from England. She immigrated to the States. My wife's American but adopted from the Philippines. So it's like,
man, the amount of just experience and knowledge that comes from that's and I figured you were educated, so yeah, I mean, just based off the way you speak, and I've heard you in interviews and in your lyrics, like I figured you were educated. So yeah, I didn't realize that you had gone to school in San Francisco. How long did you live in Alaska for, you said?
Till I was 10. So age of 10, moved to Jakarta, which, you know, my life has had a lot of extremes. Imagine going from tranquility, quiet, a lot of darkness, no population density to Jakarta, which is freezing cold. Jakarta is some of the worst traffic in the world. Last year it was rated the worst air pollution in the world. You've got 30-40 million people in a city that has really no public parks, no sidewalks to stroll down. You know, the first 6 months I was there, I developed a kind of a temporary form of asthma. When I'd be running around playing sports outside, my lungs would literally start to like seize up on me just from the heat and the pollution that I wasn't used to. So,
man, that's wild. I used to live in Girdwood, Alaska. So yeah, I mean, Alaska's a bizarre place, man. not bizarre, but like to go. Those are some extremes.
That is from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Alaska is a bizarre place, dude. It's beautiful, but it's interesting, right? You either have people who they call end of the roaders, like guys who left the lower 48 because they're on the run for something, or they're fleeing some sort of baggage, or you have kind of hardcore Bible thumping folks up there, extreme right Republicans. You also have a lot of hippies, just a lot of dope smoking, leave me alone, very tranquil hippies. And then obviously the native Alaskan community, and then the oil and gas, which dominates the state. Like it's this really weird mix.
Yeah. The tribe I was around were the hippies that like just loved them. They just lived on the mountain. Like they worked at the mountain, they snowboarded. Like that was life. Smoke weed and snowboard.
Were you a snowboarder? Is that
I
why you were
was,
there?
yeah. That's why I moved there. And a friend of mine, when Girdwood was, they were giving away land in Alaska. I mean, they always do. She moved from Utah out there and lived in a motorhome for a year, and then ended up acquiring that land because you know how they do that. Like, if you live there, it's kind of, so one of those things. Not like give it away, but pretty much give it away. But
so my brother ended up going to high school, and he elected to go. He was a boarding school on an island called Sitka, which it's a high school called Mount Edgecombe, and it was set up for the children of the tribal leadership of the tribes around the state. So he was one of, I think, only 2 or 3 non-native kids at this school. And now that he's an adult, basically the guys he grew up with are all the tribal leadership around Alaska, right? And my brothers lived everywhere from the Arctic Circle to like literally everywhere in the state, and kind of has that unique access. A lot of his buddies are really, really kind of high in the leadership within that community, you know? It's,
that's
so
cool.
was he quite a bit older than you? He didn't go to Indonesia?
He's 6 years older than me, so he only went to school in Indonesia for like 18 months. Plenty of time. 18 months is plenty of time for him to get in all sorts of hellacious trouble, which he did. But then he went back to Alaska, and he's now living back in Southeast Asia. But he lived in Alaska until kind of early 40s, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you something. With that growing up, kind of moving around and living in all these different places, what would you say the biggest impact that had on your life as an adult? Like how did that shape you as a person?
So anybody who has kind of lived the type of experience I have, it's a common discussion we really have, which is you go back to the States, you sound American, you understand American culture. It's not like we still don't follow it from over here, but you don't have those shared experiences. So it's really weird to go from a place that is a developing country. I literally lived through revolutions and new people in terrorist attacks. I've been involved in all sorts of crazy, crazy extreme events. And then you go back to the States, go to college in San Francisco, and you're just sitting there on the Muni bus, like everything's really functional. It's you can't relate, you know? It's a big contrast. And so that's why a lot of people who grow up abroad who are American, and I'm sure it's the same for Europeans and others, they end up going back. My dad, as I said, he grew up in Southeast Asia. He ended up moving to the States for college. He got a job, blah, 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 blah. And eventually he wanted to go back overseas. And that's what I did as well.
Does without it sounding like throwing shade on Americans or anything, but does it seem like an American life is like a sort of mundane and...
Well, it's... Okay, so the U.S., what we're blessed with in the States, to me, is unbelievable access to the outdoors, right? From Alaska down to Florida and Hawaii, everything in between. America is blessed with some amazing natural environment. But I would say culturally, it's very kind of inward looking. Because our entertainment dominates, we're only 5% of the population, and we think like we're the center of the universe. And becomes very hard unless you're in a coastal place on the east or west coast where there's still a big international community. That's why I went to San Francisco. Becomes pretty challenging. You know, last time I was in Alaska, I was literally fishing on Kenai River, talking to some guy next to me, and told him that I grew up in Indonesia, and he literally asked me if they use seashells for currency. You know, that's like that's the type of shit that we dealt with all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I live in Indonesia. Is that in India? Is that in Indiana? No, Indonesia. It's not. You know, so I love America. There's many good things about America, but there's a culture gap. You know,
there's an ignorance that just when it comes to different places. Because I know Ty would always say like, "Yeah, I'm Samoan," and they're like, "Oh, Somalia." And he's like, no, not Somalia.
Two totally different places.
You would stand out in Somalia, that's for sure.
Hey, what music made you feel like rap was something you could do?
I've always been good at writing. Like, it's English in school didn't matter. My friends would always tease me or joke about how I could literally come up with the essay that I didn't do any schoolwork on. I could write it like in 10 minutes before the class, right? I've always been good at putting words together. And I would say probably, I did a little rap performance in Alaska when I was like 7 or 8, but that was just some childish thing. Probably when I was 11 or 12, that's when all my friends were really getting into hip hop. And I already knew I was good with words. Of course, everybody tries to rap a little bit, but I was talented with words, and I felt that, I just felt that I could do it. For me, the words is what enraptured me, right? It's not necessarily the beats or the production. I would lay there in bed listening to hip hop. I would have to turn it off because I could just sit there all night listening to lyrics. And it was always the wordplay.
What were you guys listening to out there in Alaska? What was?
Well, I can't say I was listening to much hip hop in Alaska, but in Jakarta, I mean, Sage Francis, we had access to, back then it was super slow dial-up modem, but my entire crew was into underground hip hop, right? We'd be listening to Zion I, Mind Clouders, Living Legends, you name it, Atmosphere, obviously Sage. I can run down the whole list, right? Mike and I. There was something I wanted to ask you when you just mentioned. So do you get a fulfillment, like an enjoyment out of writing when you write, like just writing stuff down or writing a story or writing an essay? Do you get a thrill from that? It's now been entirely, I would say, placed into writing rhymes, but it is my favorite. I wrote 2 songs today. Like, it's literally my favorite thing to do. AB sent me 2 beats today. I just wrote a whole bunch and recorded it. It's my favorite thing to do. And when I hear a dope beat that just resonates with me, I gotta sit down. I have to write right away, right?
Yeah.
It's like a form of meditation. I've tried to figure out what an analogy is, but when you're doing something and you're purely focused on it, and I've done it so many times for so long that my brain just starts stitching rhymes together. And to be honest, I don't even know where they come from half the time. The word just pops into my head. Yeah. And it's kind of like a form of meditation. You're purely focused on that and your self-expression at the same time. That it's a great feeling.
So do you have an opinion about things like Chat GPT and stuff? I mean, I guess it doesn't bother you. I mean, well, I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that?
It's funny because I have so many friends who are like, it's coming for you, bro. Like, it's done. Game over. I'm like, okay, maybe for some generic songwriting and definitely for scripts, definitely for marketing material, definitely for like people who blast out emails. But I am not at all worried that an AI is going to come along and be able to stitch together intricate rhyme play while actually saying something interesting that needs unique human perspective. Like, my album is infused with a lot of the insane stuff that I've seen and gone through. A chatbot is not going to have that, right? It's just going to be too robotic feeling, I think. So I'm not too worried about it for that.
I love the way you state that too, because that's what it is. Like, a lot of people are freaked out about it, especially like even in my world in visual arts. And I agree with you. What a computer will never be able to articulate is human experience. They can try to do it, but a computer won't know what it feels like to go from Alaska to Jakarta. Like, it just won't. It can guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think the very first song on my album, the very first bars, I'm talking about, while you were rocking with Diddy and watching Walt Disney, I was getting dropped by helicopters in Papua New Guinea.
While you were rocking with Diddy, while you were watching Walt Disney, I was getting dropped by helicopters there in Papua New Guinea. Terrorist bombing my city is what I call getting litty. Was eating street food in stalls where you were gobbling Wendy's. Drinking whiskey through a straw, big in my squad getting tipsy. 13 years old, bottles of Henny, smoking boxes of ciggies. Now watch me run like young Obama was through those forgotten slums, hanging with the kids.
You think any chatbot is going to think of Walt Disney in Papua New Guinea? Yes, that makes sense. Like, it's not going to happen, but that's my life, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love the way you put that. Hey, let's go to a silly Sophie's Choice question. Which is more your kind of movie, No Country for Old Men or Grumpy Old Men?
Oh, shit. Fucking love Grumpy Old Men. No Country for Old Men is also amazing, but in terms of watchability, I mean, I've watched Grumpy Old Men so many times, especially, I think it was the second one. The
Grumpy
outtakes,
Old Men?
the old grandfather, and he's saying all these perverted things in the supermarket. That used to crack me up.
Fantastic. A lot of the content and just your life in general seems like it's, or growing up felt like not turmoil, but a lot of changes and stuff. What I'm wondering is there something that brings you, other than writing, like a real joy to your life, or is it the writing and your?
Definitely. I mean, rhyming is my number one passion. I play basketball a lot still. I grew up playing basketball. That's my thing. And, I'm about to watch Team USA play Puerto Rico here in an hour and 20 minutes. I would say spending time with my son, I mention him at least 3 or 4 times on the album, and twice I talk about the light in my son's eyes. And of all the crazy extreme things that have happened to me in my life, every time I see him and he's so happy and he's so joyful, he's got developmental issues, and even that aside, he's fully present and he's so engaged, and he's just the purity there, And
yes.
Yeah, I would say that brings a huge amount of joy for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Beastie Boys or Boys to Men?
Fucking definitely Beastie Boys.
Could go either
Nothing
way.
against Boys to Men, but you're not going to see me jamming out to Mariah Carey and Boys to Men anytime. Not me.
And I guess so. You do keep up with what goes on in the States, right?
I mean, you can tell by a lot of my content, I'm still very politically informed, and I mean, one of my biggest interests, I should say, in life is probably geopolitics, and most of the American presidential debates don't even get into foreign policy. My life has borne the brunt of American foreign policy. I've literally been beat down by a crowd of 30 people after the invasion of Iraq. I've seen what happened when we went from being very happy to have Americans here to murals of Osama bin Laden on the walls in Jakarta, I've seen a lot of things, and American foreign policy and the duplicity around it is definitely something that has bothered me for a long time. So I'm very hawkishly watching over all the time the craziness that's happening in the U.S.
And does it, when things like that happen, I know we like you said, like Americans feel like we're the center of attention, but then when something major in our politics happens, it does seem to affect. What is that word? I'm not obviously not as bright as you are, but what is geopolitics? Is that what that is? Like that's a worldwide?
Yeah, I mean, it's the politics of nation, power, natural resources, the economics of it as well. And what we do domestically in the States, we're not the center of the universe, but we're so powerful and influential that our dysfunction in the United States impacts the rest of the world. Where I am living right now, which I don't want to say, but where I was a couple of weeks ago when the Trump assassination attempt happened. Now you had so many people like, Chris, what is going on in your country?
Right.
And, and they immediately start to question themselves. Is it fake? Was it real? Blah, blah, blah. And what I find interesting, and I was thinking about it last night, is there are a lot of wild conspiracies in the United States that are just absurd and cheesy and obviously not true. But that word conspiracy gets branded to things, whereas in developing countries, they've seen their governments lie to them so much, it's just called corruption.
Yes.
And so, it's corruption. And in America, if you try to point out corruption, it's like conspiracy theorists. Like, no, I'm just talking about corruption. I think I'm seeing some corruption here.
Yeah, it's maybe something that our government or governments thrive off of that, especially I know in the U.S. Like they know how that's so beneficial for them. Like anything that happens, they know half of the population is going to scream conspiracy theory, half the other population. Yeah, that's wild. That's how you keep control.
I mean, I know you like the song on my album with Brother Ali and Sage, right? That track somehow. Mm-hmm. I mentioned divide and conquer in my verse. I talk a lot about the partisanship because I think Americans need to be more unified. Like all of us can jump on calls and, I don't even know you guys and we can get along. The average American is actually a good person. But we're being pulled to the left and right by all these different political forces. And it's all about profit at the end of the day, profit and power, right? That's driving it.
Yeah, absolutely. We discuss that a lot on our show because Adrian and I we live in a small town, but we also have a house in a big city. But and we travel coast to coast all year long, and people are good. Like someone like when I'll be pumping gas at the gas station, like this like a MAGA guy will be standing there and like he'll still say like I like your rig, like and we hold the door open for each other. Like people in person are good to each other. And it's something I like to point out a lot because when people meet each other in person, it's a different story.
At their root, most people at least just want to be comfortable. They want to see their kids do well. They want to be safe. They want to pursue their dreams. Like that's anywhere you go in the world, from the city slums in Jakarta to wherever in the United States, right? Most people at their core, I think, are decent, but
but also then when you start talking worldwide, a lot of people have to deal with way bigger things than what we deal with in America. That's what I was going to ask you. Do you ever feel like when you hear like Americans complaining about stuff, some of the simple stuff that we do complain about, is it irritating to you, or do you just understand it as that's just the nature of the beast?
Well, there's like two sides to it, right? It is funny when, people talk about first world problems and it's a bit like, all right, dude, just, okay. But at the same time, and I've talked a lot about this with my brother, there's something in the States that is driving a lot of very severe unhappiness and discontent. And there's a lot of mental health issues there. You can literally go into the most impoverished slum in some of these countries I've been to, and the people are very dignified. They try to still live in a dignified way. They're very happy to receive you. They try to live as cleanly and wholesomely as possible, and they're just very still good people. And I think in the US, because we've been sold this whole thing of the American dream for so long, and you tie that into consumerism, when that American dream actually starts to only be available for a few people, and yet we're still told that we're the greatest country in the world, a lot of Americans have this dissonance where they're like, I am the greatest, but my life sucks. And, and it's
you can't rectify
it
in your brain. Like how can this be so good? I don't feel great. How is this?
Yeah. Adrian's always going on about how we're sold like we deserve to be happy. Well, what do you say, Adrian? You're always like, sometimes you're like, sometimes people just feel like, like it's okay to just like not be happy.
Just be.
Yeah, just be.
The happiness is like some bar. Like we're told happiness is like this achievable thing and we can be up here all the time. But I mean, really happiness, in my opinion, is just like the mundane. It's just living with when you happen to not have like major problems in your life at that given moment and you're just able to just be, in my opinion, I think that's actual happiness. Of course there's exciting times, but I don't think you can be excited all the time.
Yeah, I think when you bring that up to what you're saying to people is like it's okay to not, because I think people get really down on themselves when they're like, well, I'm not happy because of social media. People always posting their happy moments. It's like, exactly. I don't know. I was going to ask, what method do you use to keep up with what is happening in the States?
Voraciously, I watch documentaries. I read the news constantly. I listen and watch podcasts. My parents are back in the States now. My dad's like, Chris, you don't even know what's happening here. I'm like, actually, I knew about this 3 days ago, Dad. Like, it's the internet age. It's like I'm living there. I can access the information too. So no, I mean, I have a sincere interest, very passionate interest in it. And at one point, maybe in the future, I'll be back in the States, and I've envisioned wanting to get involved in local politics at some place if I ever move back to the US, because I think we need more outside perspectives infused into the dialogue that happens internally.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that would be great. I'll vote for you. I don't know. Which would you rather have a major comeback, Blockbuster or Busta Rhymes?
Well, definitely Busta Rhymes, but I should say I think the last Blockbuster in existence, brick and mortars in Alaska.
Oh,
like it's still there.
There are two, because there's one in Bend, Oregon, and they sell themselves as the last one.
No, there's one in like maybe they recently shut it down, but I was like a year or two ago, it was still tiny town Alaska. Everybody gets in their car and gets the VHS tape, or DVD.
I sort of long for times like that. I mean, that's one of the reasons we bought this place in this small town in Missouri, because there's a niceness to that simplistic living where it's not a rush to get to everything. I don't know. I like that sort of vibe.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was offered a job maybe 5 months ago to go take a role in Houston, and I went down there, and I don't know, everybody driving on that, forget culture and politics, but driving, they have the biggest highway in the world down there, right? I think it's 18 lanes, like super highway. You're in your car every day, everyone's super aggressively driving.
Yeah.
I'm like, I do not need that.
Man, the aggression is real when you live like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Where does your moniker come from, OldBoy Rhymes?
Good question. So there's several different layers to it. One, there's obviously a famous Korean movie called Old Boy, and this guy gets kidnapped essentially and put into a room for like, I don't know how many years, 18 years or something like that. And he's in there. He doesn't know why he's in there. It's a windowless room, and he's punching his hands into the walls, right? And getting tougher and tougher and stronger and stronger. And eventually he gets let out, and then he just massacres everybody.
Shit.
For me, like, I always was rhyming. I always had the capability to rhyme. I didn't have any access to a platform. Nobody was watching, and I was just doing it for myself. So there's parallels of that, right? Working on your craft till you eventually get out. The other thing is, as you likely gathered, I'm a friendly person, but I'm also sometimes a serious person. And I've been told, like, Old Man Winters is my nickname since I was a young kid. Our basketball team, everybody called me Old Man Winters. My parents said even as a 2 or 3 year old, I was just kind of like a grumpy, wise old sage. Yeah.
Hey, where you play ball at, or where you're at, are there like a lot of Americans? Are you like the big? What am I trying to say, Adrian?
I know what you're asking.
Okay.
When I was younger, when I was growing up in Indonesia. Yeah, you're a 6'1" American guy. You're always like one of the bigger guys.
Are you 6'1"? You're 6'1"? Oh, okay.
It's hard to tell on a screen.
Yeah.
But you flash forward to now, it's changed entirely. Basketball is huge. Basketball has become very global. And, I play where I'm living now. It's a mix of, yes, there's Western guys. There's a lot of African guys who live here, but a lot of Asians too. And the big dudes, like I'm not playing power forward anymore. I'm still like, I'm back shooting threes.
Oh yeah.
So it's changed a lot. You have a lot more talent in the developing world for basketball. I moved back to the States for college. Right? I always had a dream. My initial dream, I was a Michael Jordan fanatic, was to be a basketball player like a billion other kids. When I was good, let's just say I was the MVP of the high school basketball team, blah, blah, blah. I got to college in San Francisco, and I remember standing in the college cafeteria, and I'm trying to check out, and I just feel like a giant presence, a shadow looming over me. And I'm like, what the? I look over, there's a 7-foot tall dude there, and it's just like, oh, yeah. I realize why no one's looking at me to play basketball. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're just different type of people.
Hey, let's get to so we got Sage's social media alert brought to us from Strange Famous Records.
What up, DOD45? What up, OldBoy Rhymes? Sage Francis, literally in the house. This is where I do dishes. Anyways, oh boy, there's really not a whole lot of social media to lurk
on you because you were only active on Instagram. You didn't have a whole lot of posts there, but the ones that you did have totally caught my eye because you were rapping in the mic, so I was hearing your verses or freestyles and whatever the words were popping up on the screen, which you should do more of, and we should do more of. Like, why am I never rapping on my social media? This is what we do. Are we too old for this? No. We own this. We've been doing this. So, since I can't lurk your social media, I just went back to our email exchanges, which started in July of 2022. And that's when we first started this whole process. And I told you a track that I wanted to hop on, which was The Indicator. But I warned you, I said, it takes me a while to write and record sometimes. Just fair warning. And you were like, oh, no worries. This was July 8th, 2022. And you're like, realistically, this isn't going to come out until October. So, more than 2 years later, the album is finally out, The Sane Asylum. I have to believe that you've had several revelations during that time. Just being kind of thrust into the business of it all. I'm wondering what the bigger ones are for you. Like, what really sticks out as, wow, I never really considered that. I didn't think that would be important. Here we are. And I want to apologize for how long it took. Of course, I wasn't part of the very inception of this, but when you allowed us to hop on as the label to release it, and we got Mopes involved, thank you so much for your patience and trusting the process, and just being a pleasure to work with. Honestly, you are one of the only people who gives little to no resistance when it comes to critique, whether you take it or not, but it's not like, no, I could never do that, or nah, that doesn't matter. You always are like, really, you're a pleasure. You're malleable in a good way, in an artistic way. I look forward to doing a lot more with you. I wish the best for you and your family. I love you. Strange Famous. Fiber! Peace, DOD45.
Look at mom, no hands. I built a suit of armor with wooden arms.
Firstly, I would just like to say I have known Sage now, as he said, since whatever it was, July 2022. It's still a fucking trip for me that Sage Francis, the guy I used to listen to on the other side of the world, talks to me that way, and I have open dialogue with him. It's still a trip. Things that I have learned. Number one is I've had to learn patience. So I am not patient by nature when it comes to things that I'm passionate about. I can write, as Sage will tell you, extremely quickly. I can, that master cleanse, I wrote that shit in like 45 minutes, right? Like I can just pump things out really quick. And I like to keep going. I'm like really enthusiastic about the creative process. And so when I'm really psyched on something and then I pass it off to somebody else to add their thing to it, and I'm sitting around twiddling my thumbs for 3 weeks or 6 weeks, I start to get really frustrated. Like, this dude's disrespecting me. Like, what? But that's not what it is. So I've just had to learn everybody has their own process. Everybody is busy and has many things going on, right? I've definitely learned patience. The musicality aspect to it, in the past, some dudes would send me beats. I worked with other people, but they were more generic hip-hop beats with a loop and a drum kit and a bass line. Working with Mopes and with Sage and seeing how they've really fleshed out a lot of the musicality around it. If you listen to this album start to finish, it changes a lot. There's no two songs that are the same, and the beats themselves, the sequencing Mopes did, they switch up a lot. So getting insight into that has kind of raised my bar of what I expect around the musicality of it.
Yeah, I have heard the whole album. When this episode airs, the album is currently out, but I got an advanced copy of it, and I've listened to it quite often. It's good, solid content. The music is Mopes never misses, I don't think. But what like you just mentioned in the answer to Sage's question, or that you mentioned at the beginning of it, it is a trip to go from someone that like you listen to, because I'm in the same boat. Like now he's part of our show and everything, and I just listen to Sage all the time, and it is such a trip to be on a level where you're like having a conversation with him as a person, kind of like talking with idols, for lack of a better word. But your album, like, this is your first album, and you've got Brother Ali, Myka 9, Sage Francis, like Mr. Liff, like that. That's such a surprise. Like, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, man, it's a trip. You know, last week Sage went on Brother Ali's podcast, and to hear those two talking about me, you? And I'm watching that, I'm like, all right, like that just happened. Insane. And all the interaction I've had with all these other guys, they've all been very supportive, very receptive. At the end of the day, I always felt like I had skill, and to have the guys that I looked up to kind of validate that, super rewarding. You know, I never aspired to try to be some mainstream commercial artist. I was always inspired by these guys who put pen to paper and said unique and interesting things. And yeah, to kind of come out of nowhere, a nobody knows who I am from the other side of the world, and to have all of my heroes that I used to listen to like tens of thousands of miles away, it's pretty surreal.
Yeah, that's nice. It's nice. And I think deservedly so. I think the reason it's taken place is because you got bars and you're skilled and I feel like you're educated, you're a great writer, but I think education is the key. Yeah, being worldly. Yeah, you have a perspective that most MCs don't have, and you deserve.
It's funny you talk about education multiple. Literally, the quote in my high school yearbook, my senior year page, I put, "Don't let school get in the way of your education." So I don't think education just tied. Yes, I went to university and stuff like that, but I got kicked out of college, by the way, and had to go back. It took me a while. But a lot of education comes through lived experience. And because I've had such a variety and diversity of experiences, a lot of hardcore, unpleasant things, but also beautiful things and cultural things and dynamic things, living through countries that are birthing democracy and all of that, like, you just get a huge amount of experience. And that's why I'm really passionate about trying to convey it. As I mentioned, wanting to infuse that in our dialogue in the States, because I think it's needed. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And when I speak of education, I guess my version of education is the education part that comes from school is the use of words and vocabulary and how to put those words together. But actual experiences, I think, are the main thing, because that's what I lack. I didn't have schooling, and but I've got life experiences, lots of travel, living abroad, just lots of things in my life. But I struggle to get that information out because I don't have the vocabulary to do it.
So you're a visual artist.
That's true. Yeah. But that's what I'm so impressed with people when they can get a thought out and articulate what they're saying, because I'm not jealous of it, but it's inspiring to hear. So I just want to say you're an inspiring individual with articulating your thoughts, and that's key.
Really appreciate. Maybe it's somewhat genetic. My grandfather was a minister with a big booming voice, right? But for me, creative energy and expression, like, my wife is not that. She hates public speaking. She's not a painter either, but she is creative, and she makes clothes, and she expresses herself through her physicality. Like, sports and movement can also be artistic expression, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, what's the story with the Smiley Pills music video? How did that come about?
Hello, hi. Are you feeling dead inside? Do you lay in bed and cry? Do you hate exercise? Do you see how they televise celeb lives and want to stick metal knives through the gelatin in your yellow eyes? Do you look outside and think that hell's arrived? Would you like a mellow high? Well, have we got a thing for you? Smiley Pills. Turn a troglodyte posse type into an awfully nice...
So believe it or not, that was something I recorded long before I met Sage during lockdown. My brother is a visual artist as well, right? He painted the cover of my album. He's insanely creative visually. And he was in lockdown, I think in Alaska, and he sketched just a quick sketch of a dude urinating in a lake. I can send it to you later. Urinating in a lake with a giant yellow smiley face there, right? And so I was sitting there in lockdown, and I just I recorded that as a cheesy American kind of faux pharma ad. And after most of the album was kind of set, I flicked it off to Sage and Mopes, and was like, hey, I think this fits the theme of the album. And obviously Mopes then added the music behind it and some of the effects. But I know quite a lot about the medical industry. I won't get into all the ins and outs of it, but you know, most people don't realize the United States is one of only two, I think, developed nation that actually allows pharmaceutical ads on television. You don't see that in most of the world. And the overprescription and the incentives that lead to the overprescription of these. I'm not saying like I'm an anti-vaxxer or hardcore like that, right? I'm just saying there are incentives that lead to this. And so many people think it's a normal way to exist, to be on like 3 or 4 chronic medications. Like, it's not the way to be. If you have to, you have to. But there are preventive things you can do long before that to hopefully avoid it. But that's my dark humor take on how we're constantly bombarded in the States with these ridiculous pharma ads that have these crazy like little taglines at the end that your head may explode and your heart's going to catch on fire. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's wild. And that's in your outro. We share videos. There's a video that I'm going to share based on that topic. So that's cool that you brought that up. What about the music video? How'd the music video come about?
So I was trying to figure out what we could do with it, and initially I made a video that was using royalty-free stock footage. It looked like a commercial because that's what most of those commercials look like. But Sage and I wanted to go a little bit more twisted and dark. So Sage, kind of like me, has been somewhat on the fence around AI, right? And not because I'm afraid of the lyrical part like we talked about, but just some of the ethics around it and deep fakes and misinformation and where this could all go. But, you know, we decided let's give it a shot because we think it could be compelling. And so he hit up a guy who we were referred to who has made some pretty cool AI videos. And Sage paid the guy. We started the process and he just ghosted us. And I told you how impatient I am. So I went on social media and I started blasting his friend to refer. I'm like, what the fuck is this dude? And Sage is like, that's not the move. Delete your comments. So I did. And Sage handles things more diplomatically than I do. And he gave the guy a shot, but he was a complete flake. And so I was like, Sage, I think I can do it. I've made a lot of the videos, right? That Master Cleanse video I made, the Myka 9 video I'm about to drop, I made that. And so I was like, let me give it a shot. And I taught myself how to use this AI engine. And I taught myself how to bypass some of the kind of censor restriction mechanisms they have too, which is why there's a little bit more, especially towards the end, kind of graphic visuals.
Oh, did they not allow you to do stuff like that? Like some of the programs?
No, the main one I was using would flag it and say, we've detected restricted content or something like that. But I'll just tell everybody, if you go to a AI image generating platform, totally independent and separate, and you create an AI image that has whatever ridiculous content you want, then you upload it into the video. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem to catch it or flag it, and then you can start playing around with how it generates the video. So
yeah, it gets pretty gnarly at the end of that video.
So are the other videos that you did AI?
No. The one with Myka 9, that's going to be the first one we post here.
I spit it and spray it like Tony Montana, then tell them to blow me persona and guada. I've come for the globia, the whole enchilada like God in it down. As you saw the stigmata, no pots like commas. I promise the lava like bombs that they drop down on top of a sucker. Hard like Caracas, I ball like Gonzaga, so haters will promise to call up USADA. Yo, hasta mañana, I've had it with drama. I'm blasting the cannon, the Spanish Armada. I am just slamming the microphone on you, giant, just trampled in microphone. Honestly, yo, man, the odds pretty low that you're biting me, bro, when you're rapping and laugh like a...
Which is actually one of the only songs on the album Mopes didn't produce. It was produced by Gel, the founder of Anticon, who's insane on the beat machine. That is kind of a lyric video, but you have my silhouette rapping and you have Myka 9 silhouette, and then I animated all of the lyrics and I basically did the whole thing.
Do you have any blanket statements or anything you want to just put out there for the people to know?
I could launch in a million directions with such a...
Well, let's say anything that's like that you weren't able to get onto the album because, like you said, you recorded most of these lyrics almost 2 years ago. A lot of things have happened.
What I'll say, which I think is interesting, and I floated the idea to Sage, is that very first track. It's intentionally the first track called "What's Hard," and I infuse tiny snippets of at least 20 true stories and events that have happened in my life. From being assaulted and drugged in a home invasion to nearly dying in a plane crash to the riots to the revolution to stuff that happened with my buddy getting stabbed, right in front of me from Indonesian mafia, like all sorts of crazy things I've been through. And there's just little slivers of them that I'm alluding to. Like as an example, in the final chorus, I mention cops in your front yard. That's all I say. But the backstory to that is there was a police sting in my front yard because I was being extorted by the mafia when I was like 12 or 13. Oh. And they kept coming into my house when my parents weren't home, threatening to kill me. And I was so scared. I would give them access and I'd steal cash from my parents. They claimed to be mafia. I think they were pretty low level. They were kind of drug addicts, actually, but they knew a few people. Mm-hmm. But I was a terrified little kid. My parents eventually caught on to it, had this police sting organized, and the police had to watch me go out there and hand money to this guy. And then they stormed out, beat the crap out of him, took him to the local police precinct. And in a developing country, it's a little bit different. Right. So they stripped all the clothes off this guy. They literally made him walk like a monkey up and down the stairs as the police were walking by, kicking him. And I'll never forget the interrogation room. On the opposite wall of the interrogation room, you could smell urine and all of this stuff. They had blown up a bunch of pictures, giant pictures of people with mutilated faces who had been beat to death to terrify the people there in there interrogating. And I was like in 8th grade, right? I was like 13 or 14. And in that song, it is literally all I say, cops in your front yard. So I have wanted to do a podcast, and Sages has talked about maybe we do it, where I literally just go through the lyrics in that song, and so much of my life is condensed into that, 3.5 minutes or whatever it is.
Oh well, so there's a lot more details to it, but you tell it well in the song. But yeah, there's a lot more detail. I think that'd be a cool idea. Yeah, to run through.
On that guy, were you terrified then for him to get out? Because
no, in a country like that, so if you're powerful enough, you pretty much don't ever go to jail. Right. If you like the level where he was, as I said, he seemed kind of like a drug dealer who seemed loosely affiliated, but I was a young kid and he was terrifying me. I wasn't afraid he would get out. When you have like an American family who's got the police coordinating this, it was just kind of, that guy's gonna disappear.
That's done. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying they killed him. I just
no, sure. Well, and with all that stuff and all this heaviness and stuff, what do you use as a palate cleanser?
Rhyming, really. Yeah. One thing I can say, and I talk about this a lot with my wife, who's gone through a lot of extreme things, her own journey tied to being adopted, and which had a positive side. Like, I went on a mission and I found her biological mom 3 years ago in the Philippines, and like that's been this whole journey I could tell another time. But a lot of what I talk about my wife with is I've gone through so many different crazy things, but I never felt like a victim for whatever reason, like when I had this guy break into the house and literally drug me, poisoned me enough to kill me and attack me, and I had no memory for 3 days, and I was just a kid, and I don't look back on it and feel like I'm traumatized. I just feel like it was something that happened to me. And through the way you frame things in your mind, you can get resiliency. And so for me, I know I come across this way because I'm trying to share these experiences and these stories, and they infuse themselves into like my rhymes. But on a day-to-day basis, I don't walk around and I don't need my palate cleansed. I'm I'm a friendly, engaging dude. I'm not like ready to explode all the time. So I just think it's how you frame things in your mind. And I've gone through a lot, but I don't feel any bad kind of way about it too much, you know.
Yeah, and do you think that's some of that is also having the ability to write, so being able to process it, like that's part of the I guess therapy of it or whatever, being able to write your thoughts out. I think that
100%.
probably helps.
I should have said that as well. That's definitely a healthy outlet for me. I mean, I just pour myself into it. I'm somebody who grew up getting into a lot of fights when I was a kid because I used to get bullied in Alaska, and then I overcorrected and became somebody who just would explode on the quickest slight, and that followed me for a long time. But generally my baseline, unless I find somebody is trying to take advantage of me or whatever, I'm just a happy, engaging guy, and yes, I do express myself through rhyme, so I think it's the kind of counterbalance, you know?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
I don't want to like discourage your podcast idea with Sage, but have you ever thought of a book instead?
Oh.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because Sage has told me I should write it all down into a novel of some sort. There's different ways it could be done, you know? Like, I've often thought most Americans back in the States would be shocked, and my friends watching this are gonna laugh probably. They'd be shocked if they realized how debaucherous Americans abroad actually live. And I mean, straight up debauchery. These guys who are expats who have high-paying jobs, they come over to developing countries, and it's like every norm or taboo that was shackling them back in the West, they just toss aside. I've seen some of the most insane behavior. I can tell you so many stories. Even my 8th grade teacher was an American. Like, he was straight up addicted to meth, like in our classroom. Like, I've seen so many things. People have separate families and hidden family, like so many things you couldn't believe, that I've thought a TV show of like 30-minute segments of like this crazy mini story and this crazy mini story, and have them all be true would blow people's minds. Because I've got stories, so many stories. A lot of them were related to me, but also things I've seen. And
right. Well, I'd read your book.
Do you have that? Because writing a book and stuff like that, it's definitely different than writing rhymes. Is that something in your wheelhouse? Like,
I already started writing that concept of breaking it into mini stories. I started writing that as a book like 10 years ago. And I've got a buddy who I grew up with who's Australian, who's now pretty successful, high-level, Hollywood-level cinematography. He's worked with Russell Crowe, all these big movies. I'm trying to get him at some point to pay attention to that idea. Like, we've got to take all these crazy stories from our life, or graphic novel, Ty. I mean, I've always been.
No, I think that would be really cool. Did something, yeah, because you got the stories, and people who don't listen to podcasts, there's a lot of them. They won't hear this story, but people who read books, yeah, I think that's a cool idea. Oh, it must be pretty amazing to have Sage fully behind you on this album, right? That's got to be nice.
I should have said it after his very nice message. I said it on other podcasts and interviews we did together, but anybody who asks me about Sage, I've got to say, like, as somebody who listened to him when I was younger, he is as cool as you would hope he would be, and that's not always the case.
Right.
And he's super supportive. He gives me direct feedback. I only want to put out the best shit and get better all the time. So as he said, I'm not pushing back. I don't get all hurt or offended if he's critiquing something or suggesting I do it. And Sage is the man. He provides a lot of just open, honest feedback. I mean, him and I literally, I bet if you looked at my phone, we probably have chatted every day for the last, 4 or 5 months, save for a few days. Like, he's always available. Like, he's the man.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Do you speak multiple languages?
I speak Bahasa. Yeah, Bahasa Indonesia.
Wow. That was something that you had to learn? I mean, that's cool. Is that a difficult language to learn?
I wish you didn't ask that question, because it's much more impressive if I don't answer that. So the average American, when they ask me in the States, say something, and I say something, they're like, whoa, that's like crazy. Bahasa Indonesia. I'm like, actually, so Indonesia is a country of 17,000 islands. It had 76 or something like that dialects. It's the fourth most populated country in the world. And when it got independence, they were trying to create a national language to unify all these different communities, right? And so the average Indonesian speaks 2 or 3 languages. They have different local dialects, but they created a more simplified dialect that everybody could learn, which is a major feat of cultural and social engineering, actually. And so if you compare it to like the US dictionary, I would say the Indonesian dictionary is probably like 15% the amount of words or something like that. I don't know the exact number, but it's
that's
not that complicated.
That's pretty cool. So their government implemented that. So did they teach that in every school?
Yeah. Every public school had to start teaching Bahasa Indonesian.
And then would they all still speak their own dialects, but this was just the main one sort of thing?
If you go to Bali, everybody's heard of Bali. Most people have never heard of Indonesia, but everybody knows Bali, which is in Indonesia. The Balinese all speak at least one version of some Balinese dialect, and then they all speak Bahasa Indonesia, and a lot of them speak English. So
so intriguing. That like you said, that is a huge feat. Like, that's fantastic. When did that happen? When did they start? When did they do that?
I think independence was like 45 or 40, something like that. Yeah. So from there onward, in the neighboring country, Malaysia has similar kind of roots to the language. So Bahasa Malaysia is a little bit similar, but a major feat, man. You're talking 270 million people now in that country. And in 60, 70 years, they all spoke the same language.
Yeah, that is a major feat. All right, last question before we go to your dish, because maybe you have the answer. Do you think Quincy Jones really knows who killed Kennedy?
I heard that he had claimed that he did, but I would love to hear the answer. Probably not.
Probably not. Why would you go around saying that? I don't know. It's so weird.
Just flexing. I don't know. Maybe. Never know, right?
Yeah. All right. Oh, the last final one. What advice would you give your 21-year-old self if you could go back?
Wow. Maybe don't be so stubborn. When I mean stubborn, I told you I got kicked out of school. I was really committed to rhyming. It's all that I was interested in. And I got kicked out of school. My girlfriend is now my wife. She went off to Japan and we kind of had a falling out. All my buddies kind of disbanded me. I was so stubbornly clinging to my vision of my identity, of myself. I ended up getting into a major health crisis for like 18 months. I had this major autoimmune issue. My whole life like spiraled and plummeted, and I didn't want to reach out to anybody for help. And there was a period there, even my parents kind of were sick of me and we weren't talking. I was being way too fucking stubborn. And my life only got better when I decided, hey, you can still love rhyming, you can still love being creative and all of that and still have that identity, but you can also stop being a dumbass and you can actually go back to school and you can apply yourself and you don't have to be hostile to anybody who doubts what you're trying to do with your dream and your vision. Like, you don't have to be so aggressively stubborn, clinging to what I thought my identity was. And, maybe it took a lot longer than I expected, but here we are. And, I have actually pulled it off while also building an entirely different life for myself.
Yeah. Well, here's the kicker to that. Would your 21-year-old self would have listened to you, or would he have said, fuck you, dude?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. The very first time I was at Amoeba Records on Haight Street in San Francisco, and I saw Mortal Technique spit to like a small group. There's like maybe 15 people there. And I went and watched him, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I grew up listening to all the guys I told you about, but when Tech was coming and spitting raw lyrical stuff about not just the United States, but the developing world, right? That just kind of exploded my brain. And, probably 70% of my content is similar, but drawing upon my experiences. So I would like to think for sure my 21-year-old self would be pretty psyched at how I can put words together now.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, well, the timer had gone off. That's as far as I got on the drawing, but we're going to go into your first, worst, and thirsts.
First things first,
Oh, well, please excuse this interruption. I have a quick announcement. Right here is typically where we'd be going into our dish segment, but we decided we wanted to give you more time with our guest. So we've turned the dish segment into its own episode of bonus content. So following this episode, tune in next week, same time, same place for this same guest and their answers to their first, worst, and thirst questions as part of the additional content we call The Dish, which Buck65 revealed was his favorite segment of the DOD45 show. And how could he be wrong? He can't. So tune in next week for The Dish with the guest you're watching right now and the dope new theme music created by our man Buddy Peace. Speaking of, let's get back to tonight's episode. Peace. So listen, new album's out now. People that are watching this episode, the album is out. What are your hopes for it?
I'm realistic, right? Strange Famous is a very dope indie boutique label with a ravenous fan base, but I brought on a lot of my legends and, you know, people I looked up to who inspired me and inspired many other people. So my hope is that in whatever corner of the world where people are going to see this, that we're waving a little bit of a flag for that era of hip hop, you know? It's crazy how you become a bit older and then you're the one talking shit about the new music that's come out. But lyricism matters to me. And being an MC means many things, sure, like rocking a party, but a big part of it, like what Chuck D was doing, speaking truth to power and like fighting injustice and trying to shed light and perspective on things that matter. And I've seen a lot of different things in life, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm a well-intentioned person and I want the world to be better for everybody. And even though I spit with kind of anger and aggression, that's just my style. At the end of the day, I hope enough people hear it, they respect that type of lyricism, and hopefully it opens some eyes.
Well, and Strange Famous Records is a label like prime for that. I think. I mean, yeah. When I grew, independent hip hop was so much of my life that I didn't realize that it wasn't part of other people's lives. Like it had such an impact on me. I was like, well, everybody knows Sage Francis, or everyone knows these people. And when I got older and realized people hadn't heard of them, I'm like, how is that possible? It was like my whole life. Like, how do you not know who these people were? But yeah, no, fantastic. I'm glad you got an album coming out with them. Is there anything that, or what's the next move for you now that the album's out?
I've got a bunch of other material already done. As I said, I was recording stuff with Alexander Brown today. One of my homies I used to record with a lot when we were younger in San Francisco. I'm trying to bring him into this. He used to be an amazing rapper. He stopped rapping, but he sings like insanely infectious, catchy hooks, a little bit more modern sounding. So I'm curious to see what we do with that. I'm eager to I can put out content every day, every week. Like I literally could. So I'm just chomping at the bit to get this done so I can figure out how to get more stuff out. I love creating like you know? Yeah. It's what makes
me feel alive. Well, what's the best way for people to stay informed with what you're up to? How would you prefer them to stay informed?
Well, Sage is obviously constantly taking little digs that I'm a little bit averse to social media, which is what he said on the Strange Famous Friday this week. I'm working on that. Like I post on Instagram, like having time to juggle Twitter and Instagram. I think
and one is enough.
Right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Otherwise, it's a job. It's its own job.
If anybody wants a job, if you want an internship, an unpaid internship, come on, I'm happy to let you do it.
So going off of Adrian's advice, because I agree, one's enough, because there's just too many. What would be the platform if you ended up going with that advice? Which one would you, which one's the place where you would prefer you would go?
Let's say probably still Instagram. I'm the most familiar with it now, and people find me there. I can post videos and all sorts of things, and probably Instagram.
And that's at OldBoy Rhymes, or is it at OldBoy _Rhymes, or is it one word?
Just one word, at OldBoy Rhymes. Yeah.
All right. Well, to complete the arc of our episode, how do you typically prefer to end your days?
How do I end my day? Usually watching something most people would find totally disruptive to their psyche, but I'm usually watching like political or historical documentaries. And I find that stuff engaging or interesting, sometimes enraging, but that's literally how I unwind.
That's your unwind, huh? Oh, wow. Wow, that's it. Yeah. Okay, there you go, everybody. Thanks so much, man. Hey, it was a pleasure talking with you. Best of luck with everything with the album. You'll be hearing more from us. We're entwined with Strange Famous. So I don't even know. Entwined, is that a word? Fuck it. It doesn't matter.
We're like a weed. They can't get rid of us.
Oh, yeah. That real quick. I know you're so far away. Is there any? Will you come to the States to perform the album at all? Or that seems really difficult, right?
I'm all about it. Like I've told Sage, we just need to pre-plan in advance so I can, structure time off. But if we could, even for a kind of cathartic, memorable thing, Sage and I have talked about trying to book a show in Alaska. Like if I could go back to Alaska and spit up there, he loved when he's performed in Alaska. The West Coast, obviously San Francisco, if I could go back there and rhyme, I would love to. But I would also love to get Sage, who is he's a world traveler, but he's a reluctant traveler at this juncture of his life. I would love to get Sage out to Asia, maybe with somebody like Brother Ali, Tom Thumb, who most people don't realize when I keep mentioning his name. The song that he's on, he beatboxed that entire song, right? Every instrument sample on there is a sound made with his voice box, and it sounds like a produced beat. That guy is one of the best beatboxers in the world. He's just in Australia.
The beefing up the IRS, the Simon says it's by a jet. From Aphrodite or by your les or black and white, yo, I don't give a shit. Let's fight the feds, supplying fire to my dying breath. What's gonna take to get through to you, bitch? Never know I will quit. I'ma take a razor, slip right through down to my own bone marrow. I drip on my blood and flesh and these beats dig deep on no shit. Just the beginning, man, we're not done. Strange famous and we're never gonna stop.
If we could get some of these guys together in this part of the world, I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so great. Well, we'll be staying informed with what you're doing through your Instagram. And again, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Good luck. Who you rooting for on tonight's game?
I swear to God, if the United States does not win gold medal with all this talent, they should have their passports revoked. Like, you don't get paid that much, winning gold medal.
I think you might be right. All right, man. Thanks, old boy, man. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and we'll stay in touch.
Awesome, guys. I really, it was fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, love your album, by the way.
Thanks,
fantastic,
and nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise, guys. If you want to follow me, I'm the man. Let me know.
Okay.
Well, that sounds like it's part of the plan. All right, man. Peace.
Take care.
Bye.
The dawn of a new day, and we need a Bruce Wayne. I'm watching the bodies filling the graves there in Ukraine. We got our own Nazis and we forgot our own Husseins. And Nabi is buying names at the top of the food chain. Go read about Groom Lake and then drink a shroom shake.
But yeah, no, what a great chat. What a delightful chat and an insightful chat. I'm really turned on. I don't know if I don't have a better word for it. No, not turned on. It's inspiring to talk to people who've got life experiences.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear something who has an experience different than your own.
Yeah. Well, and also, but an interesting one because everyone's got a different experience.
I know, but the lines kind of parallel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. It was just a great chat. I can see why Sage was so immediately connected to him, and they hit gold with him. I mean, as far as content wise and being able to spit, because he's got bars. There's no denying his bars. But what I'm most impressed with is his the way he articulates a point. It's just he can do it. Mm-hmm. I fumble all over the place when I'm trying to get a point. I'm just hoping that who I'm talking to is smart enough to catch on to what I'm saying.
Everyone knows what you're saying. You just feel frustrated inside.
Yeah. But yeah, great, fantastic chat. All right.
I also love that he told us what orangutan meant.
Orangutan.
And people of the forest, because they do seem like people of the forest. And they're such lovely little. Not little, they're big.
Loaded with stories. What a great episode. And I'm glad that Sage had suggested for us to have him on. So yeah, here we go. Here's the drawing I did for our guest. the cover of the Empire of the Sun movie. If you haven't seen that movie, you really should go see it. It's a really good movie, and it is Christian Bale. He's really young, just a young Christian Bale. John Malkovich is in it, and it's a really good Steven Spielberg movie. And check it out. And that's interesting that he felt connected to it. A brat, or ex-brat. What do they call it? Expat or pat? The children of soldier expat. Expat. But anyway, great, good movie. So that's what the cover of the movie is, that on the plane going down, but mine is the smoke, and it's Wolverine, because OldBoy said he was a big fan of the original series Wolverine. He also said that he was a big fan of of Akira, the original Akira. And I was trying to figure out how I could put Akira in here, but I just couldn't get it to work. So, and then he mentioned he's a huge fan of Black Thought, so that's why this "You and I verse at war," or what did you think it was, Adrian? You and I
First at war.
You and I first at war. Yeah. You and I verse at war. That's from the second album. No, their third album. What's that album called? It doesn't matter. So that's because he said he's a big Black Thought
Philadelphia
fan. Philadelphia Half-Life. Yeah. And yeah, so there's the drawing. If you like, if this is your first time viewing our episode, which maybe some of you are your first time watching an episode, the drawing that you're looking at down there below us is the finished drawing. I didn't get all that done during our conversation, but I added color and highlights and more detail to that drawing a little bit later. So what I was drawing was what I did in the 45 minutes. What you're looking at below is a lot more time was put into the drawing. And if you like the drawing and you want to get a print of it, or if you want to get a print of any of the other drawings I've done on this show, you can get those at DOD45.com. Just scroll all the way down to the page, and there's a link. So there's that. Oh, you can also get more of my art at ArtByTai, TAI.com. We'll spare you all that other sharing of social medias and all that other shit. Here's some... let's wrap up the episode then with some recommendations. How's that? Here's my movie share. This is going to seem like a strange movie share, but my movie share for this episode is a movie called Dark Room.
The moments prior to these pictures are the only ones that matter. What do you see here? My friends. Your friends aren't in these pictures, David. Your friends are outside this room. Your wife, your family.
From 2008. And I bring it up because it came up in our discussion with Sage earlier in the intro. So I figured, what the hell. Also, our kids watched the movie recently. With my nephews and nieces and stuff. And they had positive things to say about it. And for those of you who don't know, Dark Room is a movie that I produced. I wrote, directed, edited, tried to act in, all of that. They had positive things to say about it. It kind of inspired me a little bit because I used to be kind of obscure about the movie, because the movie that we ended up making wasn't exactly the movie I wanted to make. We had production issues, financial. I mean, the budget was $80,000. I think it was $80,000. Which is not that much money, but it is a feature film. Anyway, so the movie is about kind of based on some true stories, and it's about a guy that develops film for the police department. Now, for the youngins that don't know, there was a time when pictures had to be developed in a dark room. And so this movie was based on a friend of mine I went to school with. His parents owned a film developing company, and that one of their clients was the sheriff's department. And they developed film for the sheriff's department. So that's what the idea of the story is, about this guy who develops film for crime scene photographs for the police department. And in the story, these images start to affect him and cause him some mental health issues. And it's a really kind of different sort of movie, metaphorical movie. The way I made movies back in the day, they were very similar to my drawings. A lot of metaphors, a lot of hard things to make sense of. So it's kind of like a jarring way of telling the story. But I'm proud of the movie, but it definitely wasn't the movie. I had to compromise on some issues. But it stars Todd Bridges, who plays Willis in Three's Company, Different Strokes, and then a guy named David Stevens, who is in P.T. Anderson's movie Punch Drunk Love. David Stevens is one of the bad brothers in that movie. Darren Dalton, who's in the movie Darkroom, he is the head Soch in the movie. What's that movie called, Adrian? The Outsiders. The Outsiders. Yeah.
I didn't ever watch that.
He's also the kid in Red Dawn. Anyway, the reason I bring it up, it's you can get the movie. I believe you used to be able to watch it on Amazon. I don't know if it's still available on Amazon, but you can order DVDs of it. I'm open for people to see it now. There are some reviews online that are really nasty about the movie, and they're not wrong about it. It's kind of a slow-paced movie. It's a slow burn. If you're willing to pay attention to it, and if you're also understanding of the budget being $80,000, and
well, and like you had mentioned with Sage, like some key moments had to be re-edited, and then also, I think your nieces and nephews still didn't get it, but your kids get you.
Yeah,
and they
that's
get
true.
that creativity. They were raised in a different creative environment, I think, than most people.
Yeah, so it's a thinker of a movie.
Cause even last night, or the other day, we were with their friends, and she was saying how it's very similar to something when we went to that play.
Yeah.
And Nolly kept saying, but I have my dad's brain, so you might not understand the movie.
I think a lot of people aren't going to understand it. Even, what's funny? Well, let me tell this real quick story, since my movie share again is the movie Darkroom from 2008. Todd Bridges was in the movie, right? But he just comes in and does his lines. He's a really small part. But he was there when we had the premiere of the movie. Mm-hmm. He didn't really know the script. He didn't read the script. He was just brought in.
Put him up in that really nice motel.
Yeah. Anyway, we go to the movie premiere, and the movie's premiering, and it ends. And I was sitting next to Todd Bridges, and he was on his phone the whole time.
And that's back before apps.
Yeah, it was just funny. Yeah, he was like texting with someone like his agent or something. Anyway, when the crescendo of the movie happens, because it ends in this crescendo, he like hits me in the legs like, oh shit! Like he didn't even know how the whole movie ended, and he even kind of made sense of it. But
even when he was on his phone.
Yeah, and it was a different.
He watched a different movie.
Yeah, he watched a different movie than what the distribution
there.
company released. Anyway, so I just thought it was interesting because Scroobius Pip right now is about to make his first movie production. Also, R.A. the Rugged Man's currently filming his first movie. This was my fourth feature length movie, and I was 21 years old.
But you know what? The access is different now. You can film. Getting filming equipment was really difficult.
Yeah,
do you remember you had to rent it all from Red Man Studio? Was it Red Man?
We all our lighting equipment. But
you had like movie dollies, all the.
If you want to make a movie,
things,
you still have to do that stuff. You still got to get that stuff.
I don't know. I think people now can make them on
that's what I mean.
Different devices that are easier, and there are products that are more affordable. Like I don't know.
You can shoot a movie with a camera, but one thing that has to make a movie is you have to pay the sound guy. You have to have good sound, and you have to have lighting. If you want a movie, you can shoot on a phone, but you need to have good sound, good lighting. Also, acting is going to help. I was young too. I was directing people way older than me. I wasn't clear. I mean, I was not very good at. Like I always say about articulating my points. I struggled with that, but I was texting with my friend who I produced the movie with just yesterday and saying, I'm not done with the movie industry. I will be returning and making movies again, and they'll be a trillion times better. I understand movies. I know how movies work. I know how to... I have ideas, thoughts, and I think that my next movie will be so different.
Well, I just want to say, with how you started by saying people used to develop film in pictures in a studio.
In a darkroom, yeah.
But what I'm meaning is the equipment that you used on the movie.
Yeah.
People, I don't even know
They're consumer products now.
They don't even know how you would use these machines and how you would roll like the dolly things on the track things and like sandbags to hold your lights down. There's just so much that people wouldn't even consider that. That's where most of the budget went, right?
Most of the budget went to the sound guy,
to the
sound
renting
mix
of the equipment and the people who knew how to run those things.
Yep. Yes.
So I just think it's different now. I just think it's a bit different now, totally and I think it'd be a bit easier, although maybe not.
Well,
easier in some areas.
I'm hoping not bore. I don't want to bore anybody with it. The idea is that's my movie recommendation. Yeah. Darkroom. I'm okay with people watching it now,
and I'm fine with you making another movie, but I'm not catering this one.
No, of course not. Adrian was the caterer on this movie.
I've always been the grunt crew of everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate it.
Just in there rearranging the gallery yesterday because
no one asked you to do that.
I know, but someone's got to do these things.
Anyway, the movie is called Darkroom. It came out in 2008. And give it a look. I feel like every time I recommend that movie, I'm like, it comes with a bunch of like, and this and this and this and this, whatever. Either you like it or you don't. It doesn't matter. It was a movie that I made. I'm proud of it. Okay. Adrian, do you have a song share?
Oh, yeah. When we were in Minneapolis last weekend and we walked past the Dakota and you said, Mick Jenkins is playing here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you even knew who that was, but I really like this one Mick Jenkins song. And that's what I'm going to recommend.
What's the song?
Jazz.
Jazz by Mick Jenkins.
7-9 King Drive, you can picture me rolling. Been in corners, we was headed to the roster. Nigga been blessed, but a nigga been sick and a nigga been stressed. So fuck it, I'm a doctor, self-medicated. Ginger ale and the champagne flutes, and I ain't celebrating. Just cooking up crack, but presentations everything. Tell them wait till I played it. Patience, I'm faded, like outdated denim.
And I think if that show is coming up, if you get a chance to see it, you should see it.
What show?
Mick Jenkins show in Minneapolis. He's a Chicago guy.
Yeah, but
so
you mean what
cool.
show? If he's playing somewhere where we can see him?
Sometimes you hear these artists on your Spotify and you're like, do these guys exist? Do they play shows? Do they just do this from their basement? Yeah. What's happening here? This guy has a big following. He's, but I was just really excited to see that. So yeah, go support him if you see him out there.
Fantastic. My song share is a song called Waile by Witch. And also a song that I just recently came up on my playlist while we were in Minneapolis. It is such a groove. It's, I don't know. It just came on when I think we were, I don't know, maybe on the drive. I don't know. It just came on.
Did you have it on enhanced?
Maybe. But I was like, holy shit, this song is a groove. So enjoy. If you like this song this Waile song or Adrian's song share, and you want to hear more of our song recommendations, if you like our taste, I think we got pretty good taste. Anyway, check out, we have a song share playlist on Spotify, and the playlist is called DOD45 Loves, L-U-V-S. I discovered the way you find it is you search ArtByTai on Spotify, and then you search my playlists, and that'll come up. You'll see that.
Well, don't you have a link in the show notes?
Oh, yeah, I do. There's a link in the show notes. Subscribe to that so you can hear all of our new music. If you like any of the songs in that playlist, please do support the artists who made the music. You know all the deal. I think I keep pushing it because I think some people don't realize. I think a lot of people still think, oh, their music's streaming, so they must be doing fine. But I don't think people realize that just because the music's streaming, they aren't getting paid for that, really. Mm-hmm. So, if if you're in a position to be able to buy people's albums or just give them money
or see their shows
or go see their live shows, stuff like that, please do that. It'd be great. All right, I got a joke real quick. This is Adrian's favorite part, by the way. You ready for your joke?
Mm-hmm.
How do snails fight?
Oh, these are really terrible.
Do you have the answer?
No.
They slug it out.
Oh my gosh, they're not slugs, but okay.
Oh boy. Okay, yeah. All right, everybody. It was a nice episode with OldBoy Rhymes. Be sure to pick up OldBoy's music at strangefamousrecords.com. Follow him on Instagram at OldBoy Rhymes. His album that's out now, it's called The Sane Asylum. Go check it out, man. This guy's speaking truth to power. That's the terminology. He's speaking it. He's got good stories to tell, and I think there's a lot to be learned from him, from his experiences. So, and he's got real cool vocal patterns. There's a great features on the album. You've heard it all. Hey, there's something new on Spotify. It's called Comments. Spotify Comments. You can now comment on our episodes. So, yeah.
That might be bad.
Maybe. Yeah, you can go on there and comment. That seems to be where most of our listeners are at Spotify, but
they can see the visual,
you
right?
can watch the visual on Spotify, but I would still like to I would prefer people to check us out on YouTube. Hey, we'll be at Arts, Beats, and Eats next weekend. That's in Royal Oak, Michigan. We weren't there last year, but we'll be there this year. Come check us out. Middle finger to X, Twitter rags, DOD45.com or DOD45 Show. All of our podcast updates are on at DOD45W. For more in-depth information, go to DOD45.com. Like, share, subscribe, review, all that stuff, please. It does help us land future guests. Adrian, do you have any final words?
Goodbye.
Okay. From all of us here, I'd like to wish you happy drawing, happy conversing. Thanks for conspiring with us, and please pick up after your pets, people. We're out of here. Peace.
DOD45.
Thank you for joining in on yet another episode of the DOD45 Show. Please hit the subscribe or follow button so that you never miss an episode. You can even go one step further by leaving us a review on the YouTube stream or on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever it is that you stream our show from. You can find me at ArtByTai on all the socials or at ArtByTai.com. And if you'd like to follow the DOD45 Show on social media, we're at DOD45W on Instagram, or you can go over to our website at DOD45.com where you can shoot us an email, join our mailing list, and watch all of our past episodes. Consider joining us for a live chat on the YouTube premieres of episodes every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Peace.